Okay, guys, we're here with round 9 from the Indiana Regional Championships. Now, the first couple minutes of this video did get cut off. Fortunately, that was only Ross's turn, so we only missed one turn. Boom. Sorry, had to fit that in there. Just kidding, Ross. Alright, so Ross did go first, and he looks like he Ultra Balled away like a fire or something. Oh, no. Sorry, so he attached a fire to his Raikou. He got some Dynamos out there, and Andrew started his turn by playing a Crushing Hammer and discarding that fire. And he's going to attach the Darkrai and play an end. So let's just get a rundown here. Ross, you know, we've featured him already. It's just an Eelektrik Rayquaza deck with that Victini to stall for time. Andrew, on the other hand, is playing a Darkrai Terrakion with Crushing Hammer. This is a deck we've seen pop up a little more often now that the format is more defined. It's a very powerful deck. You know, it's fairly consistent. You're just all basic Pokemon, basically. It's all hard-hitting basic Pokemon, Darkrai, Terrakion. You run Sableye, and then you run Crushing Hammer as well. So you have to skimp on a few things to fit all these cards. You know, you only run like 3 Sableye, 3 Darkrai. You just gotta fit some stuff in there. Let's see. Looks like Ross is maybe using a different dye. I'm not sure. I think there might be a problem because they're all the same color. Technically, you're supposed to flip a different color die than the one you use for damage. So, anyway, but yeah, this is just Darkrai Terrakion. You run Crushing Hammer as well. It's tough to fit all these cards, so there are a few things that are probably missing that you would want. But overall, it's going to be a very strong deck. And both these players are 8-0. So we're going to see a great game here, I would think. Now, Crushing Hammer is a card we saw come into play in the last round with Joel Moscow. You know, discarding fires from Ross's Pokemon is going to be so huge. And I think Ross will learn his lesson from last time. He's going to be a lot more careful with his fire energy, especially now that he sees that Andrew is playing Crushing Hammer. But who knows? Anything can happen. It's going to be a long match, probably. And that's not a Ross joke. That is, this match is going to take a while because it's going to be 2 great players here with some good decks. And it looks like both of them should be able to set up this game. Okay. So Ross here, he's got to be a little scared of the Crushing Hammer because what happened to him last round with he lost all of his fire energy, and by all means he probably should have lost the game. He managed to squeak by, but he's got to realize that this game he's got to be more careful, not discarding too much stuff, not discarding his fires carelessly and attaching them carelessly. I don't think he knows that Andrew runs Terrakion, but he'll find out. I'm very sure of that. The problem with Ross's start is that he started with Raikou EX. Now this is weak to fighting, aka weak to Terrakion, aka if Ross ever takes a knockout, he gets retaliated for 2 prizes, because Raikou gets knocked out in 1 hit. And whoa, Ross Ultra Balls away 2 Biancas. That's really painful. You don't usually see that. It's very shocking to see. I mean, he must have a Juniper in his hand too, or something like that, for him to have to discard all that stuff. But it looks like he's got an N in hand, actually. Strange that he decided to discard 2 supporters. I know I've seen Ross be very, very liberal with discarding cards that normally I would not discard. For example, the Fire Energy. He discards switches a lot. And in this situation, he discarded 2 Biancas. A big problem that at least I always have with Eelektrik decks is that you fizzle out in the middle of the game, or maybe at the end of the game, where you just don't draw into supporters. You know, you'll play an N, and then you'll never play a supporter the next 3 turns. Doesn't seem like Ross has that problem very often. So, I guess that's why he does it. He manages to draw out of his situations pretty much every time. So now he's going to draw his 6 cards. I think he's going to be going for a Sky Arrow or a Switch, so that he can begin the Thunder Waving. But if he missed it, it's going to give Andrew an opening to maybe pull off a Night Spear. I don't know. It's going to be difficult, but it can happen. So will Ross be able to get a Thunder Wave off this turn. Alright, he does. He's got the Expedition switch. He's got that Victini there for Victory Star to reflip for the Thunder Wave if need be. So here we go. Here's number 1. Okay, that's a Tails. And the reflip. Oh, double Tails. So this one might actually not be too relevant because Andrew doesn't really have the cards to pull off a Night Spear. If you're ever going to get double Tails, that's going to be the one you want to get. And there's going to be an N. I almost said AN. But I don't think that makes sense in the English language. It's an N. Okay. Now Andrew to pull off a Night Spear here. Which, granted, if he did, would just, like, end the game. But if he's going to pull it off, he's going to need 2 energy. One of which being a Dark. An Ultra Ball, a Dark Patch, and an Energy Switch. So let's see. That's 5 cards he needs to pull off of his 6. Alright, he's got the Energy Switch. He's got, okay, the fighting's not going to work. He's got the Dark Patch. Let's see, and nope. So, oh, that's actually really bad. Because now, I don't believe he has any Dark in his discard pile. If he does, that makes things more, that makes things simpler. And oh, he did, wow. So this was actually much easier to pull off than I thought. If he had gotten a Dark Energy from those 6 cards, he would have been able to pull this off. Yikes. That was very, very close for Ross there to just being a blowout. But now, you know, he can't attach a fighting because it doesn't give Sableye free retreat. That's the reason why he couldn't Energy Switch and pull off a Night Spear this turn. But, wow. I mean, just think of how close Ross was to just being blown out of this game by a turn 2 Night Spear. If Andrew had just drawn a fighting, or not drawn a fighting, and it would have been a Dark instead, this would have been a quick game, I would think. But instead, it's going to be a Junk Hunt for an Energy Switch, and probably a Random Receiver. I don't think Andrew has any other cards in his hand. He actually, did he not play an Energy that turn? No, he just Dark Patch and Energy Switch, so he forgot to play a fighting. He definitely should have played Energy there. So big oops from Andrew there. Probably a little frustrated that he did not draw the Dark. I don't think you would just save your fighting. Maybe he is, like, maybe he could just be, like, waiting to just go, surprise, Terrakion. Maybe he just doesn't want to reveal the fact that he has Terrakion in his deck quite yet. Could be. But at this point, you know, the surprise just like isn't really worth it. Ross has already put a Raikou on his bench. You know, he started with it. So, the surprise factor is there. The only reason you would hold on to it for a surprise is if, you know, Ross, you would trick Ross into putting down a Raikou EX. But it's already happened, so there's no tricking going on here. And we're going to see an N. So I really would have preferred to see Andrew put down the fighting that turn just to get an energy attachment out there. You're probably going to get paralyzed this turn. But you know, in most games, Ross does not have that Raikou EX sitting there. And what's probably going to happen is, alright, you know, at some point, Ross is just going to keep paralyzing him. He's going to Dragon Burst a Darkrai for a knockout, most likely. And then immediately, an Eeelektrik's going to get Ketchered. And then, you know, maybe he'll stall for some more time, get another Rayquaza out here, and then immediately, an Eelektrik will get Ketchered. Or, at some point, his Raikou will get Ketchered. And that's going to be the big problem. That's kind of where I'm going with this. At some point, those 2 prizes are looming, and Andrew should be able to take the victory. Ross is going to end for 6. Also, this is assuming that Ross never flips double tails for Thunder Wave, I suppose. But who knows? Now, where's Ross going to go from here? He's got 1 Eelektrik out. Does he have any lightning in his discard? Oh, it doesn't look like it. So he's going to Thunder Wave for a heads. And that will be a paralysis on that Sableye. Paralysis is actually the other way, but no big deal. We know it's paralyzed. Andrew could use a catcher here He's going to look at Ross's discard and just see how many switches have you used. Looks like just one so far. So he puts an Eevee on his Darkrai. That's going to be big. That can make Rayquaza EX, sorry, Dragon Burst one more energy for the knockout, because otherwise it does 160 if you discard 3. He's going to Catcher and pass. This situation, I do like using the Catcher to make Ross waste a switch in order to get out of this situation. He's already used 1. He's going to be forced to use 2 now. In this matchup, I mean, if Ross doesn't switch out, he can just get Night Spirit and lose his Eelektrik. If he uses switches too often, you could actually hit a point where Ross runs out of switches in his deck, and then you just sit there and Crushing Hammer all of the energy off his active Eelektrik, and you can actually deck him out. It's not the ideal strategy, but something to keep in mind that could happen. Ross, let's see, he does not have Lightning in his discard pile quite yet. We'll see how many switches he can go through here. This is going to be a tough game for both sides, but you know, Andrew does not have a supporter. That is his biggest issue. Once he's not paralyzed or gets knocked out, he can junk hunt for a random receiver, which would get him a supporter. There's a Tool Scrapper, that's going to be a big card, for the reasons I already described earlier. And we see a Juniper from Ross. He's going to be drawing 7 here. Interesting that he would discard a Fire, knowing what happened to him last game. Maybe you just attach the extra Fire there for some insurance, because I think he attached last turn. But, you know, maybe he just wants to attach a Lightning this turn. We'll see what he draws. He's going to need a switch, first of all. If he whiffs the switch, it's going to be a tough turn for him. You know, even if he gets the switch, I wonder what he goes for. Alright, he's got a level ball, so he can just Thunder Wave with the Dynamo. I was thinking that if he doesn't get a Dynamo and he gets a switch, maybe he just switches to Raikou and Thunder Fangs. He's going to get another Dynamo, though. And where does Ross go from here? I still don't think he knows about Terrakion, so that's actually going to be a big problem. If Andrew can just drop that down and retaliate a Raikou for 2 prizes, ouch. That's really going to be a big factor here. But it looks like I was going to put down another Dynamo. Does he have a switch? I don't think he does. Well, who knows? I'll give Ross some time here to think it out. Can't quite see his hand there. He's going to Dynamotor. Where is he going to put this? This will be very telling of whether or not he has a switch. If he puts it on the Rayquaza, he's definitely not going to switch this turn. If he puts it on the Raikou, then I can see him playing one this turn. Still can't get a good look at his hand. Ross is going to take his time. Dynamotor. Where's it going to go? Oh, puts it on Raikou. Okay. Oh, he does not have an energy or a switch, though. Alright. So never mind. That was a big turn for Andrew. Bought him plenty of time. He's got a Crushing Hammer. I would certainly just play that for the Fire on Rayquaza EX. It's not really going to be a better usage for it. Maybe you save it for a later time where Ross gets overconfident and discards too many Fire again. We do have an energy switch up to Darkrai. And I think Andrew's just going to be content to knock out this Eelektrik. I would certainly play the Crushing Hammer, now that I think about it. It would just eliminate any option Ross has of being able to Dragon Burst, if you get the heads. But he decides not to. Maybe I'll save it for a better time. And now, you know, Ross doesn't have any Lightning in the discard pile, I don't think. He's going to need to get 2 in there, and then another Eelektrik, and then a Lightning in the discard pile, or a Lightning attachment. And then he could Dragon Burst for a knockout. But that is unrealistic. Looking at his hand, which is just full of trainers. He's got an Ultra Ball, so he will be able to get, you know, another Eelektrik out. See what he gets with it. See what he discards with it. That's kind of a big question here. There's no lightning to discard, I don't think. He discards a Juniper. He might have gotten one of those hands where it's just like 3 Junipers and Ultra Balls and all this stuff you don't want to get rid of, but you don't have a choice. Yeah, he gets rid of a catcher too. And now, what is he going to grab? If there's an Eelektrik prized, it could be some trouble. I don't think he's actually gone through 3 of them, though. There should be an Eelektrik left in his deck unless there's 2 prized, which also could happen, but nope. There's one there. Gonna take a look again at what is gone. And then another Ultra Ball. Discarding an N and a Switch. Wow. He's just burning through the cards in his deck here. Let's see what else he grabs. Looks like another Rayquaza EX. So, you know, he's burning through a lot of resources, but he's also kind of thinning his deck out for later turns so that he can continually draw into supporters and useful cards. And then when he gets end, it won't be such a big deal. There's an Eelektrik, and he's going to Juniper his hand away. A lot of people would have just kind of played the N. But Ross is saying, you know what, I just want to thin out my cards. I want to get to the point, get to the cards I need. Even though I'm discarding a lot of resources, eventually I think this will be my best option. So that's what he decides to do. Will he have a follow-up this turn? You gotta think his option here is going to be to Thunder Fang with Raikou. I really don't think he'll have anything else to work with. So we'll see if he does. Ross, of course, is a player who's just known for taking his time on these sorts of things. He puts a fire on the Raikou. Again, this could open up the door for Crushing Hammer shenanigans. But I do see the Super Rod in his hand, so it's less likely to occur this game. There's 2 fire in his discard pile, I think? 2 on board already. So who knows. There's the Thunder Fang. There's a Tails. And alright, that's a heads. I think the Pokeball logo is a 6 in this situation. And now we'll see. Andrew's going to play a random receiver. Alright, he gets a Juniper. That's probably exactly what he wanted. Because his hand is fairly disposable. You know, he's got a catcher in there. That's the one card he wouldn't want to just play all willy-nilly. And he puts down Terrakion. So it has been exposed. And this is kind of the spot where your heart skips a beat if you're Ross. Andrew discards the fire from the Raikou. I definitely think you just discarded from the Rayquaza in that situation. That is going to be the Pokemon that needs the fire to attack. Raikou doesn't need fire to attack. Raikou, you know, if Raikou attacks, you jump for joy because you get to retaliate. So, always discard the fire from the Rayquaza EX in that situation, in my opinion. Okay, now where is Andrew going to go from here? He's got the Juniper. He's got a catcher in his hand. I think he might just play it. I mean, Ross, he's discarded a couple Switch already. So yeah, just catcher and Eelektrik. Buy some time. Maybe Ross won't have a Switch. Go from there. If he doesn't have a Switch, you get a huge 2-prize turn with Night Spearing this Eelektrik and then the Victini as well. You take an Eelektrik out of play, etc., etc., and you overall are just looking like you're on top of the world. Now, oh, Andrew gets another Crushing Hammer. Does he get a heads here? Oh, wow, that is so huge. He's hit all of his Crushing Hammers so far. And this is just the difference in the game right now. 3 fires, I think, have been discarded at this point. That might mean, like, all of Ross's fire are in the discard pile at this point. Or 4, at least. He's really going to need Super Rod this game if he wants a chance. Otherwise, he's not going to be able to really attack at all with Rayquaza EX. Now, his only source of, you know, putting up a fight this game is going to be buying time with Thunder Fang if he cannot draw the Super Rod. So Andrew is looking very dominant at this point, despite being paralyzed all those times. I gotta say, the Crushing Hammer is really hurting Ross a lot. The Crushing Hammer in combination with Terrakion is really just putting the hurt on Ross's deck. This is really what he would fear the most, and oh, there's a Super Rod though, so this is going to be huge. He's going to need to just put back 3 fire. This is really why Super Rod is in this deck. You know, to Eelektrik, more than any other deck, runs out of resources. And Andrew's like, man, I thought I got rid of all those. I was really hoping he didn't play that. But, of course, Ross plays the Super Rod. He's going to shuffle the 3 fire back in. But yeah, Eelektrik is the deck where you can run out of fire energy, you can run out of Eelektriks, you can run out of, you know, Rayquazas. So you need Super Rod to shuffle back in cards with this deck. We do see some Pikachu slippers in the background. Just caught my eye. We got a Lightning on the Raikou. Does Ross get a switch, though? Looks like he's going to play, yep, a switch base set this time. That's 3 switches down, though. So Andrew is really putting the hurt on Ross in terms of making him waste resources. There's another Thunderfang for a knockout. Andrew draws another Tool Scrapper, which is actually worthless in this matchup because Ross doesn't play any tools. Let's see where he decides to put his energy this turn. I would say put it on Terrakion, and that's exactly what he does. Leave yourself with the most options. You put the Dark on Terrakion so that you can just go ahead and promote it after Ross gets a knockout. And it looks like Ross will draw his card for the turn. He draws another fire. That's good. You know, one more Thunderwave heads. And Thunderfang, sorry. He does another 30 to the Darkrai. And he can actually make this Raikou worthwhile by, you know, he can then Volt Bolt the next turn to knock it out. That way, it takes 2 prizes for him, and it's done its job. Terrakion, sure, it's going to come up and retaliate, but surely he will be happy with knocking out a Darkrai with a Raikou. He cannot be upset with that. Even though he's giving up 2 prizes, that's fine. You've traded off efficiently with your Raikou. Will he get another heads, though? That's the big question. Now, Ross, gonna take a look at Andrew's discard pile. Gonna make sure he makes the right move. He could just go ahead and, if he has 2 lightning in there, he could Dragon Burst this turn, but I don't think that's the right move. And Ross doesn't either. There's the Thunderfang, and yikes, another heads. Is he just gonna Thunderfang this thing to death? That's painful. That's a painful way to go. But it could work. Let's see what Andrew does. That 90 damage on the Darkrai is such a pain in the butt. I mean, now Ross can just attack with a 2 energy Dragon Burst, which he could have done last turn too, but now it's just a Volt Bolt away from being knocked out. That is the annoying part. And there's nothing Andrew can do about it because he doesn't play Switch. At least not that I know of. No Switch means paralysis, makes you stuck every time. And this Victini is being worth its weight in gold. No question about that. But where is Andrew going to go from here? Puts a fighting onto Terrakion. I like that. He's really threatening the knockout next turn. And he plays an energy switch. I also like that. He realizes that Darkrai is probably in danger of being knocked out. And he's going to play a Bianca for a couple cards there. Gets another energy switch. I don't know if I would play that one. Looks like he's going to Ultra Ball and discard his 2 Tool Scrappers. Good move. At this point, you think Ross would have played an Eviolite if he has one. And Ross does not play Eviolite. So I like that play. He's going to search his deck. Probably get another Terrakion if there's one in there. I would think. But it looks like the other one might be prized. So he might be... Ooh, he might be low on attackers in general. You know, if he's only got these 2 Darkrai's and Terrakion to work with, it's going to be some trouble. But, you know, at some point he'll have a 2-prize turn. Whether it's catching an Eelektrik and getting a knockout that way, or... I don't even know. Retaliating a Raikou. He's going to get 2 prizes, and he'll probably get an attacker off those prizes. Can't see him not getting another attacker the rest of the game. Well, once again, he's going to have to pass against the mighty Raikou's Thunderfang with Victini backing him up. What can Ross do this turn? At some point, he's probably just going to have to suck it up and Volt Bolt, get a knockout on this Darkrai. He can maybe try to make it more difficult, catch her up a Sableye, and make Andrew have an energy to retreat. instead of just straight up letting him retaliate. Volt Bolt can, of course, hit the bench, does 100 anywhere, then you have to discard all of your lightning. Ross, so he's just going to analyze the situation. Probably going to take some precious seconds here. Not sure how else to describe his turns. He's making my job very difficult, but alright, that was a really quick turn actually. He Volt Bolts the active for a knockout, and now the war shall begin. Here comes Terrakion to avenge his fallen comrade. You know, Raikou, he wronged Terrakion's family, and he is not happy about it. He is going to take it out on that Raikou. Andrew does have a weird decision to make, though. He can catch her out an Eelektrik this turn and Night Spirit and take out Victini as well. And it looks like that's what he's going to do. I don't like that he catchered out the Eelektrik with the lightning on it. That gives Dynamotor more fuel. But I like in general that he did this move. And we're going to see a Bianca for 5 cards. Oh, and he plays Revive as well. That's interesting. That will allow him to get back a Darkrai or Terrakion when it gets knocked out. I would assume he'll get a Darkrai out now. And then Dark Patch to it just to get another energy on board. I haven't seen Revive played in a while, so pretty cool to see. This is just going to get that Darkrai straight onto his bench. It's much better than the base set Revive, which forced you to put damage, or you'd basically just come back with half life, like you would in the video game, which is a terrible card. Can you imagine reviving a Darkrai with 90 damage on it already? That is just a recipe for disaster. But this one, the new and improved one, is a much, much better card. And Ross is in a world of trouble. His Victini fallback plan has been discarded. His energy has been discarded, and this is just why Darkrai is so dominant against Eelektrik decks. Ross has been forced to discard all of his cards. All of his energy cards, I mean. And now he's only got 1 Eelektrik out. So he won't be able to use Dragon Burst for a knockout this turn. He might go for some more Thunder Fangs, but he doesn't get the reflip anymore, so now it's just a 50-50 shot of paralysis, and if he whiffs, Terrakion might just come up with an energy switch and a fighting and blow him out of the water. Andrew would go down to 1 prize at that point, and this game would be pretty much over with. So Ross, at this point, you know, he's down a prize. The bigger issue is that he just doesn't have any energy in play. So what is he going to do this turn? He promoted the Rayquaza EX, which was an interesting move. This might mean he has a Sky Arrow, or he just wanted to make sure that he could retreat this turn and Thunder Fang. One of his options could be to catch her out Terrakion, hit it for 30 with Thunder Fang, try to get heads, even if he doesn't get heads. As long as Andrew doesn't have the whole energy switch spiel with another fighting, his Raikou is safe. And then he can actually Volt Bolt it next turn and take that threat off the field. The problem with that is even if you get Tails, the Terrakion just retreats and you get Night Spirit in the face. And then you really don't gain any ground because you're going to get knocked out anyway. So you're really just putting all your eggs in one basket, hoping for a Thunder Wave heads. But what else does Ross have at this point? I mean, he doesn't really have many other options. He's got nothing in his hand that I can see. He's got an Ultra Ball. I don't even think he wants to play this here. I don't understand why he's playing this. He's going to take it back. Yeah, there's cards in there that you want to keep. This is where Ross can go a little overboard by thinning out his deck a little too much. At least what I've noticed. And you can see discarding all those supporters earlier has come back to hurt him. He discarded 2 Biancas with an Ultra Ball earlier, and now he's just not drawing supporters. He also, I mean, he's discarded a bunch of supporters so far. A bunch of Junipers, Ends, Biancas. Yeah, I mean, he just is running low. This is why he doesn't have any supporters left. There just aren't many left. So he's really just got to work with what he's got in his hand. And that means Thunder Fang. If he gets Tails here, you got to think this one's just all over. going to retreat the Rayquaza. It's painful to use another fire to retreat. And here goes the Thunder Fang. Heads. Wow. Huge, huge flip there. Tails there in this game is just about over, I think. But where does Andrew go here? Oh, yeah, he had the energy switch in the fighting. It was over if Ross got a Tails. He just goes down to 1 prize. And this match is all wrapped up. But now Andrew's he's got an Ultra Ball. He wants to discard the Enhanced Hammer from his hand in case of N. And you can see he's just struggling to find a 3rd card to discard. Do I actually want to discard another... Oh, he gets an N. Do I actually want to discard another... excuse me, Darkrai? I might need that as another attacker to finish out the game. So, I don't know. It's tough. He gets an N off the random receiver. He does not want to play that. Absolutely not. Ross has shown that his hand is full of junk. And that, I mean, that's pretty much it. His hand is full of junk. So you don't want to give him some new cards to look at. You're going to give him 4 cards for no reason. So do not play the N here. It's one of those situations where you have to understand that you can't play it. But where's Andrew going to go from here? Puts a fighting on his bench Darkrai. I like that. Powered up a little more. You can always energy switch that off if you manage to get another Terrakion. And what is he going to do? Going to Ultra Ball away. Alright, an Enhanced Hammer and his Darkrai. Technically, you're supposed to shuffle your deck and look through it. But, I mean, it's whatever. And now he's just going to pass. And Ross, no, did not get a Lightning. If he would have gotten a Lightning there, he could have Volt Bolted the Terrakion and maybe had a shot at this game. But now it's just not looking pretty. You know, he had to retreat with the fire before as well. He had to attach another fire to Raikou. If memory serves me correctly, that means he'll only have 1 fire left in his deck. Maybe 2. So Dragon Bursting is not even a reliable option. You know you have to draw into one of your last fires. But what else can he do? So I think we're probably just going to see him Thunder Fang again. He's got another Eelektrik out there. Maybe, I don't know. He's got some decisions to make. He's going to Ultra Ball. I don't understand why he's Ultra Balling here. He can discard Raikou and Tool Scrapper. And there's an Eviolite on Andrew's board. Alright, there's 2 fire left in his deck. I guess it was just kind of paying to find information. There are actually no more Pokemon left for Ross. What he's got on the board is all he has left. 2 Rayquaza EX. He's going to have 2 Eelektriks out. And then a Raikou EX as well. And you know what? Ross just concedes at this point. I think he realizes that he can't actually win. Or maybe time was called. I don't know which was which. I think time was actually called and I missed that, so I apologize. But Andrew clearly has this game won. So, alright guys, Andrew Spencer is your 9-0 player here at the Indiana Regional Championships. Ross goes 8-1. This was a great display from Andrew. And that's going to wrap up all the Swiss rounds. Check out the Top Cut rounds as well. Thanks for watching, guys. I am Pooka. And as you can see, I think it's Carl Shu, you know, congratulating Andrew on his undefeated run and beating Ross. So, stay tuned, guys, and we'll see you guys for more.